Hi there and welcome to this week's vlog. Now I've been having a little bit of technical difficulty. Usually I record these vlogs on my phone, but having problems with that, so I'm now recording it on my laptop. Hopefully this is going to work and I'll be able to upload it very soon. Anyway, I want to talk to you today about a book that I've been reading. I found it fascinating. This is the book. It's all about Dr. Bernardo, Thomas John Bernardo. And I want to read to you a little bit from the book. It's a fascinating, inspiring story. Let's begin at the beginning. He was born in Dublin in 1845. And I want to share with you an amazing story, really, from his very early childhood. He wasn't well as a child, as a baby. There was some doubt about whether he would survive childbirth, which he did. But let me read you this. When 2 years old, he was smitten by a serious illness. After lingering for weeks on eternity's brink, he was finally pronounced dead by 2 physicians. Sounds pretty final, doesn't it? The coffin actually was in the house, and the undertaker was embalming the body for burial, when, to his amazement, he discovered a flutter of the heart. The corpse was alive. Every remedial measure was forthwith applied, and in time Tom Bernardo developed into a sturdy lad. Now, there can't be many people who were pronounced dead by 2 physicians, 2 doctors, but actually it transpired were not dead and were saved, and he lived a amazingly productive and fruitful life. Thank God that undertaker noticed the little tiny heartbeat in that 2-year-old boy. So amazing beginnings. He was a child who was quite wayward, far away from God, but came to a stage in his life, and I think in his teens, where he recognised that Jesus is alive, that Jesus died for him. He committed his life to Christ. Anyway, he ended up in London, and on one occasion he went along to hear the famous missionary to China, Hudson Taylor. And Hudson Taylor was talking about the vast needs in China, the need for people to go to that country and share the gospel. And Bernardo was really challenged by that, and he was committed to going to China when he was adequately trained. However, as things transpired, he, living in London, came across some really, really desperate situations, some destitute children. He came across children who, at night time in the freezing weather, sleeping outdoors, nothing on their feet, ragged clothes. And he thought, we need to do something about this. And he put his faith into action, and he had an amazing ministry, helping and supporting and caring for, particularly for children who were in such desperate situations. So he began that work and that ministry that expanded and grew with the years. And I want to show you now some words from Lord Shaftesbury. Shaftesbury was another Christian who really had an impact in working with those who were disadvantaged at the time. But I want to tell you about a time when, Bernardo came across this property called the Castle, or the Edinburgh Castle, as it was known, in London, which was a gin palace, and many people were drawn to drink through that place. But he began to work, and many people were drawn away from the gin palace to Bernardo's work. And so eventually the Edinburgh Castle came up for sale, and he bought that, and he turned it into a place of refuge for destitute people. And I wanted to tell you about what Lord Shaftesbury said on the official opening. He was invited to come and speak there. He said, "The churches and chapels no doubt do a very good work in their own way, but they are sadly deficient in the aggressive spirit, far too much taken up with looking after their own people. They seem to imagine that it's sufficient to open a building and let it be known that religion can be had there. Whereas that has never sufficed and never will suffice to bring the masses to religion. Now, as of old, said Shaftesbury, you must go into the highways and byways and compel them to come in. And I think that's a really important message, just as important for the church of today to hear than it ever was. That Jesus said, go into all the world, didn't he? Oh, as you go, make disciples, bear witness. We can't any longer, if ever we could, just open the doors of our church buildings and expect that people will come in. We need to be out there having a witness, making a difference, being salt and light, as Jesus said. And then one other quote I want to give you, and this is another one which was true then and is just as true today. Lord Shaftesbury was interested in why it was that so many children became destitute, were thrown out of their homes, were not cared for by their parents. And so he asked Bernardo to do some, examine that question and do some research. And it's something that Bernardo was happy to do. And he came up with the astounding fact, or maybe not so astounding, that no less than 85% of those destitute children owed their social ruin and the long train of their distress to the influence, direct or indirect, of, what do you think it would be, of the drinking habits of their parents, grandparents, or other relatives. The desperate effect that abuse of alcohol had on families. 85% of those children, they were destitute. They had no care, no home, no love at home because of the effect of the abuse of alcohol. And alcohol is still a major problem in our society today, something we need to take seriously. Anyway, Dr. Bernardo had a wonderful and amazing ministry. He was called by God not to go to China, but to go to be in London and to witness there. In fact, a number of those children who grew up under his care and he witnessed to and became followers of Jesus actually did themselves go as missionaries to China. So he had an amazing effect. He died when he was only 60 years old. But it's estimated that over those 60 years, as the book says, he fathered something around 60,000 children. What an amazing life. A life touched by God, a life empowered by the love of Jesus and by the Holy Spirit. He was only a tiny man, but he had an amazing impact. And Bernardo's is still going as a charity today. That impact has had a lasting effect. So hope that challenges you and encourages you. With God, we can do amazing things. So thank you so much for listening today. God bless.